performance for the past year, we will outline our priorities for developing our defense capability and improving these capabilities. This year was a major year in terms of delivering the objectives of the special military operation. The Russian army has been holding strategic initiatives along the entire front line. Our troops have been advancing confidently and steadily. This includes the elite units which were trained in the West. They're being defeated by the Russian troops. They're equipped with foreign equipment and weapons. This year, over 300 communities have been liberated already, including major cities, which the enemy turned into strongholds, where there are long-term fortifications and permanent fortification facilities, but they could not resist the courage and valor and combat prowess of our fighters. These bridgeheads that were created and the unique tactical experience in defeating enemy defenses enabled us to gain greater momentum in all these strategic theaters of operations. We are proud of the feats of our soldiers and officers who are fighting on the front line. Everyone who defends Russia and the security of our citizens. I would also like to recognize our colleagues from North Korea, the decision of Kim Jong-un. They were dispatched and deployed to take part in liberating the Kursk region, and they fought shoulder to shoulder with the Russian fighters. They took part in a large-scale and very challenging task of carrying out demining operations in the Kursk region. It is our duty to never forget all the fallen comrades in arms, to support their families, their children, their parents. The government will do everything in this regard, everything that needs to be done. I would like to ask you to hold a minute of silence to commemorate these people. Thank you. Members of the board, we do know that the Kiev regime has the potential of NATO, the biggest military bloc in the world, behind its back. There is all this military assistance that is permanently flowing to Ukraine, along with intelligence data and mercenaries. And in this challenging environment, our troops have demonstrated their combat excellence, and we are constantly improving the capabilities of our army, and we are developing our armed forces. This is an ongoing effort in terms of personnel, in terms of management practices, operations, and combat training, and of course in terms of defense manufacturing. And many technological processes has to be redesigned to make the products we need and to make more of them. It is thanks to the effective work of the defense manufacturing sector the Army gets state-of-the-art weapons and equipment. The Army gets artillery systems and missile systems that offer high-precision targeting. They get loitering devices and drones of various kinds. Airspace forces receive new upgraded bombs and missiles, guided missiles that can operate effectively despite all of the electronic interference. Many of you here know the extent to which we have improved the effectiveness of these weapons, about 80% sometimes. I would like to thank those who work on this. This is a very important achievement. This year, the Navy received new submarines, including the Knyaz Pozharsky strategic submarine cruise missile, and there are also surface vessels. We also tested the Burevestnik missile and the Poseidon underwater craft. They are nuclear-powered devices, and this is why they will be unique and one of a kind in their categories, ensuring strategic parity and security for Russia for decades to come. And we will keep working on these technologies to improve them, to fine-tune them, but they are already there. By the end of the year, we will have an intermediate range missile system equipped with the Oreshnik missile that will be used. We use it in combat for the first time already. Our units and formations have demonstrated their effectiveness during various exercises, including with foreign partners with whom we share our experience of the special military operation. I would like to note that we had very positive performance during the Zapad West 2025 exercises. This was a very positive experience. We practiced defending the Union state from potential aggression. We can see that the geopolitical situation in the world remains extremely tense, and it is reaching a critical point in some regions. Countries are developing their offensive systems. They're creating new kinds of weapons, including in space. In Europe, people are being indoctrinated about the inevitable confrontation with Russia. They're being told to be prepared to go to war with Russia. Some political figures, former or current, are guided by momentary considerations, personal vested interest, or their group interest, but not the interests of their nations. They are ramping up this hysteria. I've said many times that these are lies. This is nonsense about Russia threatening European countries. But they're doing this knowingly and intentionally. But the truth is that Russia, even in the most dire and challenging situation, as long as there is the slightest change, Russia was always committed to finding diplomatic solutions. And the fact that these opportunities were not used, the responsibility with this lies with those who did not use these opportunities. We still stand for mutually beneficial and equal cooperation with the United States and European countries for building a single system of security across the Eurasian region. We welcome progress in our dialogue with the new American administration. Unfortunately, this is not the case for most European countries. We do understand, however, that no matter the international situation, the key guarantee of Russia's sovereignty, its independence and security and future, and the guarantee of strategic parity, this is our armed forces, this guarantee, and we need to improve these armed forces. What can I say on a special note in this regard? What can be our goals in terms of military constructions, considering the situation along the line of contact? First, we will definitely achieve the objectives of the special military operation. We would prefer addressing the root causes of this conflict by diplomatic means, but if the other side and its foreign sponsors refuse to move in this way, Russia will liberate its historical lands by military means, creating a buffer safety zone. This is another major objective. Second, We must continue our proactive efforts to upgrade our armed forces, primarily as part of the state armament service until 2036 from 2026, and we are currently working on this program. I have said many times already that we must take into consideration the experience of the special military operation and new trends in military tactics and the rapid evolution of military technology. There is the program to upgrade the air defenses, radio electronic warfare, and UAVs in all the sectors and domains. We need to improve our strategic nuclear forces as well. As usual, they will play a key role in deterring the aggressor and ensuring global parity. Today, we're marking the Day of Strategic Missile Forces in Russia. I would like to congratulate the veterans, the personnel, and civilians working in this sector on their professional holiday. I would like to wish them every success and all the best. The third point is that the Russian army must remain at the forefront of technological progress, and this means that the troops need to make more use of robotics, of new materials, and to improve their operational systems and use more artificial intelligence. Fourth, we need to upgrade our orbital systems so that troops can benefit from secure communications channel and get better intelligence data and navigation data. In May of this year, we approved a strategy for developing the Navy until 2050. It defines the priorities, and the way we will implement the strategy will enable us to upgrade the Navy and enable it to be effective along all theaters of action. We need also to promote military technical cooperation with our allies and partners abroad to improve the collective security system within the Union State as well. Overall, these efforts are very important in terms of the international environment. Comrades, one of the priorities for the state are social guarantees for the special military operation participants and their families. For all the members of our military, in 2025, the Defense Ministry, together with the Defenders of the Fatherland Foundation, did a great deal to improve healthcare services for the wounded soldiers, the veterans, in terms of healthcare for the military and their employment. We are working on various measures to support families of the fallen soldiers. Still, this is work in progress. As we prepare for the direct line and press conference, we see that there are many questions in this regard, and we will be working with the Defense Ministry. Let me note specifically military doctors and healthcare professionals who are doing the unthinkable to save our fighters, to enable them to return to the front line. We have a unique experience in healthcare services and mental care services related to the combat action. We need to develop civilian healthcare as well and to be guided by these standards.
We must continue the indexation of payments for servicemen and the provision of stable housing. Everyone must be sure that the state will provide all the necessary material support for them and their families. And once again, I would like to thank the soldiers and officers currently at the front lines, all those participating in the special military operation, for their heroism and dedication. And I wish all the servicemen and all the civilian personnel of the Ministry of Defense to continue winning for the country, and I am confident that you will continue to stand for the sovereignty and well-being of Russia. Thank you. Mr. Pelosi, please. Comrade Supreme Commander-in-Chief, colleagues, last year, at the board meeting, we identified 10 priority areas for the Ministry of Defense, and those priorities are relevant still. Today, we will look back and identify the key objectives for the coming year. Now, the key priority is, of course, achieving the goals of the special military operation as identified by the Supreme Commander-in-Chief. Throughout the year, the armed forces have maintained strategic initiative, actively advancing in nearly all directions. Over 6,000 square kilometers of territory were liberated, which is 1/3 more than the year before. The East, Center, and the West force groupings advanced at double the rate of 2024. And there are qualitative results as well. The Kursk region has been liberated. Important defense centers of the Ukrainian armed forces were eliminated in the Donbass and around. And this confirmed that the Ukrainian defense is being crushed inevitably. Their Western patrons are recognizing that as well. The important border city of Volchansk has been liberated, and security in the Kharkov and Kherson regions is also being increased. The incursion of the enemy to into the bordering region was stopped, and demining is underway. Social and economic infrastructures are being restored in the bordering areas, establishing conditions for resumption of peaceful civilian life. The strategically important city of Kupiansk was taken, and there are futile attempts by the enemy to retake it. Security in the Kharkov region was increased, and the northern regions of the LPR have also been made possible. And the city of Krasny Liman is being progressively captured, which is opening a path to an important logistics center for the Ukrainian armed forces. Chasov Yar, Kurakov, and Seversk were also captured. The city of Konstantinovka is currently the subject of intense combat, which is key to the agglomeration that, when captured, will allow us to liberate the republic in the shortest possible time. The city of Krasnoyarsk was captured very quickly, which was the symbol of the Ukrainian army's resistance. Dmitrov, which is the last stand of the Ukrainian army, in its area, is also being slowly taken, and we expect more progress soon. Vostok grouping is moving in quickly in Zaporozhye and the Dnipropetrovsk regions. Only recently, over 400 square kilometers were taken, and 24 settlements were liberated. Our army is advancing in Gulyai, which is an important hub that will provide conditions for for the liberation of the entire Zaporozhye region. Malia Tokmachka has also been taken, and our forces are now approaching Arakovo, providing conditions for the further advancement of our forces in the northwestern part of that region. And the enemy is still trying to make a bridgehead on parts of the Dnieper bank. Over 103,000 pieces of equipment, including 5,500 units of Western-made equipment, were lost by the Ukrainian army, and they've also lost almost 500,000 soldiers, and their capacity to continue force mobilization is reduced. The production capabilities of Ukraine have been reduced by half, and the efficiency of Russian strikes on Ukrainian industrial facilities is much higher than the strikes by Ukrainian forces. Strikes on energy facilities providing the Ukrainian army with energy support have been accelerated, which has also reduced Ukraine's capacity for resistance. And I think the combined force grouping and leadership for their role, and the soldiers for their courage. Now we have recruited more than was planned, almost 410,000 people signed a contract. Over a third have a vocational or higher education. And I would like to thank the heads of the military districts and the head of the Russian regions for their role in the effort. An important role is played by stable equipment supplies. Key items and kinds of ammunition have been increased by a third compared to 2024. Despite intensive combat, the level of supplies grew by a 6 percentage point. Of frontline units now have 80% of their needs covered promptly, and the aircraft and medical equipment needs have been covered almost completely. Next year, we must complete work to remediate the lack of electronic warfare and other kinds of equipment. That work is ongoing. Over 1,000 counter-battery units were tested and put into combat. FPV drones are using fiber optics. Transport vehicles and other kinds of equipment are being tested and put into operation. I am grateful to the heads of military industrial companies and contractors for their contribution. We must increase the rate of advancement. We know that political and diplomatic efforts are being made to resolve the so-called Ukrainian conflict, but at the same time we see attempts by the Ukrainian leaders and European leaders to draw out the conflict, to weaken our country, and simultaneously the combined NATO forces are preparing for a confrontation with Russia at the turn of the decade. This means that we must be prepared and that we must act proactively, taking the initiative, improving our tactics and methods, breaking through Ukrainian defenses and destroying their forces. Now, the nature of combat has changed, and this year we saw a number of changes as well. The use of UAVs in reconnaissance and combat operations has increased further. Almost half of the enemy's losses are due to the use of FPV drones. Last year, the enemy had a tactical advantage in the use of FPV drones. But in August, we saw the situation reversed, and now we have a double the number of FPV capabilities, operations. The drones are also used to deliver supplies and equipment, and we have established a new branch of forces, the unmanned systems forces. The Rubicon Group destroyed 13,000 pieces of enemy military equipment. That is a significant share of the total number of hits by unmanned vehicles. Their role has been recognized by foreign publications, including in the US and the UK. The establishment of this new type of force will be completed next year. The operations will be integrated under a single system of guidance and goal setting. We must have an integrated training system and put several dozen thousand people through the training, prioritizing young people under 25 who are most receptive to new technologies. And with this in mind, we started introducing new kinds of contracts with improved conditions and carrying out efforts to improve technologies, introducing artificial intelligence technology, and technologies that make them resistant to EW means. The so-called line of drones, which is 10 to 15 kilometers of land where everything can be struck with a UAV, is a common practice. We're improving our methods and capabilities, accelerating our advance, improving our protection from drones, equipping our units with state-of-the-art mobility equipment, motorcycles, quadricycles, and bikes. We will increase the level of supply of these type of vehicles further. Electronic warfare equipment such as Selo, Sasetka, Obereg, and others are proving successful and are being supplied at an increasing rate. We must continue ramping up the supplies of effective EW equipment to our forces next year.
We also need to change our logistics systems and the system we use for repairing equipment. This year, we have been able to secure our fuel and equipment storage facilities. For next year, we will must build a multi-tiered system. In this domain, we need to complete our work in this regard. In order to supply the front line, we have started using all-terrain vehicles and various kinds of robots. Last year, we used this sporadically, but this year we already delivered to the front line 12,000 tons of various deliveries, and next year we will need to at least double this number. We will also need to defend supply routes using anti-drone nets. Regarding repairs, this year we maintain 98% of reliability, and our mobile brigades for repairing high precision and high technology weapons. These teams were able to restore and offer maintenance services very effectively last year. We need to make sure that the tactical troops have the information they need. We have the SWOT system that is being implemented in our troops to create a single protected information system, and troops will be able to access effective services including meteorological data, photo, satellite imagery, and intelligence on the ground. This year, we also tested the system in the center group of forces. By mid-2026, we will have to make sure that this SWOT system is available for all kinds of troops we must need, and this is my fourth point, to develop drones and cruise missiles and to defend our territories against these strikes. The enemy has been using 1,500 long-range drones per month, and since May they've been exceeding 3,000. Our air defenses are 97% effective against these threats. We need to further develop our air defense systems. This deals with various missile systems and radio locators, which have proved their worth. We are starting to build a new air defense system that is based on FPV interceptor drones. They have been quite effective. In the first half of 2026, we will need to complete the rollout of these weapons. We must ensure that the troops have surface-to-air missiles Zubr and Satana, and that air forces have new weapons to target drones. Regional command centers play a very important role in anti-drone defense operation. We also need to improve and scale our experience in defending Moscow's airspace, and in keeping with the recent instructions of the President of the Russian Federation, we need to scale these practices. The special military operation showed that we were ahead of the enemy in terms of improving our weapons and our military capabilities. This enables us to achieve the objectives of the special military operation. Today, all the conditions are in place for achieving this. For next year, we have realistic projections in terms of conscription, in terms of acquiring new equipment. We have the defense manufacturing contracts that were signed. 90% of them have already been signed. Our second priority for the Defense Ministry is to upgrade our armed forces considering external threats and the technological development. We see that over the past 3 years, the threats we face have changed. NATO continues expanding its coalitions. There is the preparations to deploy intermediate range missiles. There is an effort to upgrade missile defenses, and they are becoming more agile in terms of shifting their troops to the Eastern Front. They want to create this military-style Schengen deal. Today, NATO's annual budget is $1.6 trillion, considering that NATO countries will increase the defense spending to 5% of GDP. NATO's budget could reach $2.7 trillion, which means that NATO is preparing a military confrontation with Russia, and the alliance plans this conflict to take place by the end of 2020s and by 2030s. We are not threatening NATO, they are threatening us, and we are building state-of-the-art weapons and weapons systems. Special attention is paid to strategic nuclear forces. This is a key instrument for deterring any aggression against our country. We delivered Knyaz Pozharsky nuclear submarine equipped with Bulava missiles to the Navy. Aerospace forces received two Tu-160M strategic bombers. We are delivering the Yars missile systems by the end of the year. A mobile missile system with intermediate range missile Oreshnik will be delivered to the ground forces. There are also other changes which make our forces more mobile and more agile. This includes the conventional services. We formed 5 divisions, 13 brigades, and 30 regiments. Next year, we will have 4 new divisions, 14 brigades, and 39 regiments. We are creating units within the Leningrad and Moscow military districts. In the aerospace forces, for the first time, we have the Air Defense Professional Division, the first regiment with a unique S-500 missile system has started its service in the Navy. There is a transition for the Marines to a new framework. We are rebuilding the divisions accordingly. We are providing state-of-the-art weapons and equipment to our troops, and we'll review the state's armament program. There are 4 main pillars in this effort. First, clear priorities. The priorities include weapons that will define our military in the future: the strategic armed forces, space forces, air defenses, communication systems, electronic warfare, unmanned systems and radiotechnical complexes, and systems based on new technology. There are high priority systems which account for almost half of all the spending in this regard. We need to take into account the needs of the armed forces and not just the number of weapons we can deliver. In terms of the strategic armed forces, we need to be able to overcome the enemy's defenses, including air defenses. In terms of the space group, we need to ensure high-speed communications and precise satellite imagery. We need to make sure that engineering, procurement, and infrastructure constructions are all harmonized and evolve organically throughout the life cycle of every device and weapon, from creation to its recycling. We need to improve the efficiency of defense manufacturing. Greater labor efficiencies could enable us to cut costs by 1.2% every year, which will have a positive bearing on manufacturing costs. We need to use innovative technology whenever we can, and we need to scale these innovations. And for that, we need more innovative solutions, including by taking them from the civilian sector. We need to have a single system for research and selecting innovations in terms of understanding how we will be waging war in the future. There should be small companies and academic institutions and the private sector all working together. We must create a project office to manage these innovation projects as part of the air technology complex. Using artificial intelligence in the military will make combat action more effective and enable commanders at all levels to be more effective and responsive in their decision-making process. So we need also to have autonomous navigation solutions and other state-of-the-art technology. Next year, we will be testing the system for tactical decision-making. We will have a modeling system for combat action in air defenses and counter-battery fire. The third priority is to modernize military education and upgrade military education. There are new disciplines in military training for officers, but the question of whether military education is attractive is becoming increasingly relevant. Our military academies have nothing to envy civilian institutes, educational institutions. There are all kinds of military academies like the Mikhailovsky Academy, the Communications Academy, the Military University, the Moscow and Novosibirsk Command military academies, and many other institutions. Overall, we have to recognize that military education so far is not very attractive. This is a major issue, and we need a comprehensive and integral approach for tackling this matter. We will promote military service as a prestigious occupation, and one of the avenues is to improve the quality of education and make it more attractive. We will increase the score of the national school exam, final school exam, for being able to study at military academies. We also need to upgrade the skills of military specialists. We need experts in drones, in operating drones, and in radio electronic warfare, and in high technology healthcare. In 2025, we introduced 11 new disciplines, and 700 people are already studying them. Next year, we plan to create 6 more disciplines. Second, we will have to improve the curriculum for all the soldiers, including the tactical operations. The cadets and students must benefit from education offered by those who have combat experience, and we need to make sure that the specialists are available in military departments. And next year, we need to complete this effort. Third, in order to improve the quality of training for the military, we need to do a lot to make sure that civilian and military education institutions work closer together. There were 203 agreements that were signed between the private sector and the educational institutions. Fourth, we need to take additional measures to give more resources to military academies and to improve housing for students and faculty members. We also need to look at repairs and repairing the facilities used by these military academies, including accommodation and educational facilities, in order to improve military education within the structure of our agency. We have an expert council and special framework that bring together the leaders and the senior executives from civilian and military academies.
Preparation at the early stage before conscription is an important aspect, and the DOSAF organization is important in this regard. Its regional network is developing, and it is establishing more cooperation with the heads of military districts. Additional specialties have been introduced in professional training, such as for a UAV operation. And next year, we intend to expand the number of these specialties further. And the provision of medical services to servicemen and their families is another priority. And the key aspect is, of course, first aid at the front lines during the so-called gold hour after the wound is sustained. First aid kits have been improved based on military experience. New generation kits have been supplied and at a level sufficient to cover the needs of nearly all servicemen. High-tech medical care, including dry plasma, is being supplied to cover for the needs of those with intense blood loss. Over 90% of those wounded in the battlefield are now saved thanks to timely care. Casualty evacuation is another aspect. The delivery timelines for evacuating soldiers to medical facilities has been reduced 36 hours to 40, and this has been made possible by the provision of vehicles for evacuation. And the percentage of transportation needs is now more than the year before. And special military operation experience has shown that using robotic platforms is a very successful way of operations. In 2025, only 1/5 of the needs has been covered. Next year, we must provide 100% of the needs. This will allow us to save people's lives. Hospitals. This year, we have built 6 hospitals, including in the bordering regions of Bryansk and Kursk regions. 1,000 beds have been added this way, and this means that 20,000 wounded soldiers and officers will be provided with care annually. Jointly with the Federal Medical Biological Agency, we've covered the needs of facilities and high-tech equipment, but we have seen that mostly in central hospitals, and We must provide that for the more distant and regional hospitals as well. Our state-of-the-art prosthetics capabilities are used to provide almost half of those who need it with a convenient care in the area where they reside. The issue of low efficiency of medical boards has been addressed. Mobile teams have been introduced, and the time for medical examination has been reduced to 7 days. And social support and benefits to servicemen and their families is another priority. We're centering on the needs of the people, both in terms of the payments and other benefits. We've managed to reduce the procedures and to reduce the timelines by a factor of 2. Combat payments are now delivered within 3 days, as opposed to 3 months, which was the case before. Confirmation of combat duty has been provided much quicker as a matter of priority. Automatic notification of the benefits they're eligible for is being provided to servicemen and their families. This now covers tax benefits and the next year this will cover 90% of the various benefits and support measures available. This year we've managed to reinforce the trend for reducing waiting times, increase the transparency of housing programs. People can now track their place in the line online, and thanks to the renovation and completion of buildings in progress, we've managed to increase the number of apartments available. A search for those missing in action has been strengthened. We've created the main coordinating center and introduced a unified database, which is now being actively maintained. It now includes practically all of those missing in action. Units and groups that are centrally coordinated are working jointly with volunteer organizations, and the number of missing servicemen that are being actively searched for is also increasing. And next year we intend to make more progress and providing additional quality and additional levels of success. And new kinds of personal tags have been tested in the Dnieper group of forces and has been proven successful. Feedback collection mechanisms are being improved. Every message from a serviceman or their family viewed as an issue to be resolved as quickly as possible. We launched a hotline and feedback collection mechanisms at various facilities available to the servicemen. And now people can make appeals and track their progress online. A 5-point score is used to collect feedback on the quality of support and the progress that is seen regarding the specific applications. Until the end of the year, we will adopt unified regulations that will be mandatory for all of the relevant military bodies. And there will be an incentive system to motivate the bodies to resolve the issues faced by servicemen. And operator response times are also being sped up. Military technical cooperation is the next topic. This year we started transitioning to a long-term and comprehensive planning of our interaction with our partners. 3- and 5-year plans have been put into place. These are specific plans of action encompassing a concrete cooperation such as training, and other joint exercises and activities. We signed such documents with 8 countries, including Belarus and a number of Central and Southeast Asian countries. Next year, we intend to sign such agreements with 6 more countries. We've also introduced a new system of promoting Russian-made weapons among our allies and partners, carrying out demonstrations of the combat capabilities of our weapons and ammunition jointly with those countries' armies. The Patriot Center has played a role in organizing such events. Over 20 countries have sent their representatives. We managed to reverse the negative trend of reducing military purpose product exports and increase our portfolios. This year, we're piloting new kinds of technological cooperation with our partners, simplifying exports while maintaining controls over critical military tech. As regards multilateral cooperation, we have strengthened our ties with CSTO, CIS, and SCO countries, carrying out a joint military training and patrol exercises. 21 exercises, including the West 2025 drill, were carried out. Observers from 10 countries took place, and in total it involved more than 20 countries. Improving the efficiency of the construction and property management branches is another priority. We have carried out a large-scale inventory of facilities under construction and refocusing efforts to better achieve completion rates, prioritizing those facilities that are most important, and the number of objects under construction that have not been commissioned on time has been reduced by a factor of 4. And those contracts that were deemed unfeasible were terminated, freeing up 66 billion rubles, which is a quarter of the annual construction budget of the ministry. Thanks to the measures taken, we've reduced the number of incompleted construction projects by 15%. By transitioning to a new model for the military construction sector, integrating communications and interaction between various levels of management, and creating the relevant bodies and military districts. Next year, we'll elaborate regulations for military units, and provide the necessary staffing and resources to the military construction units that have been created. We carried out an inventory of over 440,000 various construction sites and buildings.
We discovered facilities that were not in the inventory worth 5 billion rubles, and we are working with the relevant agencies to improve transparency with real property in order to make the operations of our affiliated structures more transparent. We are working with the Treasury and checking all the accounts within the Defense Ministry structure, so that we make sure that the operation of our affiliated structures are transparent. We will have performance indicators, and for these institutions, the ninth priority is to streamline internal processes, including lean management practices. More than 30 processes and approaches have been introduced into the operations. We reduced the time for processing paperwork tenfold, or by a factor of several hundredfold. It takes some operations in terms of payments. The terms have been reduced from several months to several days, from several hours to a matter of minutes. We are working in various sectors, in transport, in property management, to make sure that we expedite the document workflow at least by a factor of 5. The 10th priority is to create a single digital environment within the Defense Ministry. This year, we started creating an integrated information system for the Defense Ministry, and we finished its design, and we identified Rostelecom as the main technology partner, and we signed the corresponding contract. Next year, we will introduce at least 15 services in housing, in property management, and defense procurement. We will start the transition to an e-document workflow, and this effort is expected to be completed by 2027. Comrades, I would like to end with funding by raising this issue. We had strict financial restrictions imposed by the federal budget, but as part of the combat action, we had to increase military spending, which forced us to set priorities and to abide by them. In terms of the spending that was not related to combat action, we had to be very strict in our spending by delaying some spending in order to trim this spending from 2.7% of GDP in 2024 to 2.2% in 2025. As for the second part of the military budget, which is related directly with the special military operation, this spending has increased, but we had to take measures to impose some restrictions. First, we now have a budget planning system that factors in our priorities. We have a single treasury within Pромsvязьbank, which centralizes all resources, and it makes it easier to oversee this spending. We have an ongoing control on the way we use these budgets in order to find internal reserves. In 2025, we have been able to save about almost 1 trillion rubles. Overall, the spending of the Defense Ministry with a total of 3.7% of GDP in 2026, thanks to setting priorities, will be at the same or lower level. Nevertheless, there is still a lot of potential that we will have to use in the near future. For example, setting the limit prices on procurement contracts. We have tried tackling this issue many times, but only by the end of this year did the situation start to change. The government of the Russian Federation has helped us with these accounting procedures. In just a month, we were able to reallocate about a third of the limit prices, producing a 50% reduction in costs. It's about 500 billion rubles in 3 years. The Defense Ministry suggests to use additional resources to buy the needed types of equipment to provide better conditions for our military and to support defense manufacturers. Mr. Putin, colleagues, we have created all the conditions for achieving the objectives of the special military operation and to ensuring the combat readiness of our troops in the long term. The Army and the Navy are ready to deliver on all the objectives as articulated by the Supreme Commander-in-Chief in the medium, short, and long term. In more details, we will discuss during the closed part of this board meeting. This ends my report. Thank you. Comrades, thank you. I would like to thank the Minister for this detailed insight about the situation along the line of contact and in the armed forces. And as usual, I will simply share some thoughts, some general considerations. Well, probably I won't say anything new, you won't hear anything new, but I think that it is important that I say it. I would like to start with what happened in our recent past so that we understand where we are and why we find ourselves at this juncture. As I've already said many times, but I think that I have to repeat that right after the breakdown of the Soviet Union, and at that time we thought that we would join the so-called civilized family of European nations very quickly, the civilized Western family, but it turns out that there is no civilization there, there is only degradation there. But at the time we thought that everything was great and that we would become a full and equal member of this family, but this did not happen. Nothing of this sort. We did not become an equal member of this family. On the contrary, Russia still faced pressure and infringements, and this was gaining momentum. Almost all questions dealing with Russia were decided by force. We got tapped on the shoulder, we got invited to various events, but the West continued to pursue its agenda on the Russian front by force, including using armed forces. Supporting separatism and terrorism is a case in point. This was an armed way of supporting this activity. Terrorists got weapons and funding and informational supports across the board. There were economic restrictions. So this is also a way to pressure others. I remember very well personally when we said that we must defend our country from terrorism, but we were told, no, you do what you please, but you cannot do this or that, otherwise there won't be any loans, there won't be any preferences. So this was a direct pressure on the economic front. There were also other destructive tools to influence our domestic policies, to destabilize our country from within. This was a targeted effort, and we saw this in other countries as well, where they created and used various tools for throwing the domestic political systems out of balance. Of course, what emerged from the post-war period, everything started to deteriorate. All these rules and the UN Charter, they started to ignore the UN Charter. Look at what happened in Yugoslavia. They've used force there. This is a fact. What about it? Nothing. They acted as they pleased. There is a vote? Great. No? So be it. We will use armed forces directly. So they just destroyed Yugoslavia and the Serbs. So one nation was separated into several countries, and that was it. So, and I'm not even talking about NATO's expansion. This is quite obvious. And even today, we hear that you don't have the right. You are not entitled to. You may not force anyone to resolve their security issues the way you want it, and to deprive them of the right to deal with security matters the way they want. We do not request or demand anything from anyone. All we do is we insist on keeping the promises we were given. It was said in public that NATO would not expand to the east. But what do we have? They just ignored this. There was one expansion wave after another. It's not that we ask for something special. All we want is the promises that we were given are respected. And everyone here in this room, you all understand that there were agreements with the Soviet Union. This is one thing. And another thing is that when you have an agreement with present-day Russia, when the Soviet Union was not there anymore, they simply ignored all our interests, totally ignored them. And it all went all the way to the government coup in Ukraine. What does it have to do with Ukraine, but with democracy? They've been talking about democracy all these years, but all they had there was an armed government coup. They could have held an election. They would have won this election. But no, they just showed force, showed their power. And then they went after the southeast and they unleashed the war. We were not the ones who did it, who started the war in 2022. It was the destructive forces in Ukraine supported by the West, and in fact the West itself, that unleashed this war. All we're doing is trying to put an end to this war. And at first we tried to do it by peaceful means, by holding talks in Minsk. And then we had to use the military component because we understood that they were fooling us. And this lie was exposed in the public. It was said by senior government officials that they had no plans to deliver on these agreements, to fulfill them. They just needed to win some time to supply more weapons to Ukraine and to develop Ukraine's armed forces. They started hostilities knowingly. And I believe that they knew that the actions would lead to war. President Trump keeps saying that if he was president, there would be no war. Maybe so, because it was the previous administration that knowingly led to this armed conflict, and we understand why. Everyone thought that they would be able to destroy Russia. It would not take them too much time, that Russia will break apart. And these European think-alongs, they joined these efforts by the US administration in order to benefit once our countries falls apart, to recover what they lost in the previous historical periods and to try to seek revenge.
As it is now obvious to all of them, all of these destructive attempts, all of those destructive plans against Russia have fallen through utterly and completely. Russia has proven sustainable in the economic and financial sphere, and in terms of its domestic stability, and of course in terms of its defense capabilities. Yes, we still have many outstanding issues in this sphere. I see many people in this hall who came here straight from the front lines, straight from the line of contact. Here they are. And they know that there are still many problems in the army. They're seeing these problems every day. But still, our armed forces have completely transformed. They have become completely different. And the key change that happened over the course of the special military operation is that Russia has regained total sovereignty. Russia has become a sovereign country in every sense of the word. We regained this status, and to a large extent, that is due to your role, the role of the armed forces of Russia. Our army has become very different in terms of our combat control, our tactics, strategy and military industry, and our strategic forces. The nuclear shield of Russia is now more advanced than the nuclear capabilities of any official nuclear power of today. Is it 92%? 92% of our nuclear capabilities is state-of-the-art. I believe no other country of the world can boast that. We are seeing new weapons put on duty, and others will not be catching up soon. That includes the ones I mentioned, the Avangard, the Burevestnik, and the land forces, of course, are also becoming stronger. Yes, those who came from the front, they know that there are many issues to be solved. But the army is now very different than it was. And it has real combat experience. There is no army in the world that can boast this. Yes, the Ukrainian armed forces are now going through the test of military action. But unfortunately for them, just as the Ukrainian statehood is falling apart, which we can see with the footage of the golden toilets of those in power, we're also seeing a similar level of disintegration in the Ukrainian army. There is an immense level of desertion which is a sure sign of degradation. But our military is on the rise. As I've said, there is still a lot to be done. But it will be done. And as we always acknowledge, and I repeat that we are ready to engage in negotiations and we're willing to resolve any of the issues through peaceful means. The United States administration is showing a similar willingness, and we're engaged in a dialogue, and I hope that Europe will also come through. It is barely possible with the current political elites, but it will be inevitable as we become stronger. If it is not possible with the current elites in Europe, it will be made possible with the next generation. I would like to thank you for your work in 2025 and express confidence that all of the goals that the country is facing will be achieved. Thank you. Officers,